we look at it, as an honor to, to be loved for sure. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Historically, you've kind of been placed in the eye of the storm, being in the right place at the right time. I mean, you yourself went through, I guess it was Green River, and there was Mother Love Bone, and collaboration with Soundgarden, Temple of God, Pearl Jam. It's kind of hard to talk about this subject without sounding rather cliched, with all the talk about Seattle and grunge and whatnot. But having been at the center of that, how do you evaluate it? I mean, are those terms being thrown around by the mass media valid at all, or do you see it as just something a Frankenstein the mass media has sort of built up?
Well, it's difficult to say. My ego certainly wants to believe that it's something very special. I catch myself thinking that I'm really a special person all the time, and I do everything I can to get those thoughts out of my system. Yeah, I think we've all worked really hard, and I think that, I'm going to start sounding like a basketball player because it's going to start sounding like a cliche. Hey, we just go out there every day and we give it our all, and 100%, and that pays off. And there's amazing things going on all over the planet, and our band, the bands that we've been in, is something that the media is very excited about, and so it kind of blows it up into this bigger thing than it actually really is, which is about music and about, friends playing music together, which has been a very important thing on the history of the planet. I mean, people getting together and playing music as a spiritual release has been going on for years and years, and there's been jams that are the most amazing things you've ever heard in your life, and they were never recorded, and nobody will ever hear them, and no problem.
Can we set it here or there?
All right, anywhere you want to put it. Oh, the VCR here.
VCR.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay. ごめんなさい、ちょっと。
But I'm totally proud of the fact that we've, worked our asses off and stayed dedicated to some very simple principles that we started out having in Green River and Mother Love Bone, in terms of, one, having grown up loving bands and loving music, two, being totally influenced by punk rock and somebody showing you that you don't need to really know how to play to kind of express this thing, and three, knowing that if you just sort of stay together and stay true to the music, that you can really succeed in ways that a lot of people who are super talented can't. There's a million amazing guitar players out there. There's a million amazing drummers, bass players, but how many of them can sort of work it out in a band situation? And especially when it comes to what makes a great band is diversity, and sort of when you can hear the influences of the individual players. I mean, that's the real challenge, and I think that's what we've been successful at. And that's another really old principle too. It just so happens that we, as far as the media and stuff like that's concerned, that's definitely the right place and the right time. That's just a sort of a phenomenon that I don't even know how to explain.
That's what I think he was kind of getting at. You define sort of the micro side. Now, looking at it from the macro side, what about Seattle? What about the so-called grunge? Does this exist? This is hypothetical, so it's a little difficult. But had you been, instead of one of the players, had you not been on the stage, and had you been a teenager back in 90 or 91 or whatever, how do you think you would have reacted to what was happening in Seattle and what you guys were doing at the time?
Well, I mean, I was around in 84, 83 when I first started going out to see live music. I wasn't playing an instrument then. I wasn't a musician. I was, going to high school, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I was very excited about the bands that were around at that time. It was bands, The Human, 10-Minute Warning. There was a lot of Seattle music going on at that time. All bands that totally influenced me. All bands that I owe a great deal to in terms of, one, showing me that you can you can get away with a lot just giving your all up there and not really knowing how to play, and just sort of taking the elements of hard rock and punk rock and funk and, you know, all these sort of diverse music forms that as teenagers we kind of grew up hearing so much different kinds of music that it all sort of, you know, turned into one thing. And I think that's the most exciting thing going on in music today is just that a lot of the old barriers in a noticeable way are breaking down, where people are listening to rap and metal and all these things like at the same time, and that's really creating a unique musical thing. Because when I was going to school, when I was very young, it was much more separated in terms of, or at least it felt like it, much more separated in terms of types of music. You know, you liked one or the other. And I think everybody in the band prides themselves on liking a lot of different kinds of music. So.
Wondering about the initial impulse to pick up and start playing the guitar in your case. What motivated you to do that, and what did you think you could bring to the table, or what sort of aspirations did you have in mind?
I'm not sure. I went to an arts, a very special arts high school that was pretty unique in Seattle, called the Northwest School, and it was we went there. I went there the very first year with a few friends that had even opened. It was run by some teachers that had worked at another private school. Had felt like the curriculum there was not what they really felt was important to teaching young people, and they opened a school that was very strongly influenced in the arts and humanities and the environment, and had a very, you know, and a lot of special people went there, and a lot of them were musicians. So I went through all of high school almost sort of watching people develop as artists, and I wasn't sure I was an artist. I wasn't sure what I was, but I knew at the end of 2 or 3 years that I had seen a bunch of my friends start picking up guitar and learn how to play within a year, and that gave me a lot of inspiration. You know, the last couple of years I was there, you know, I just started picking up an acoustic guitar, and the one thing that I was really excited about was being in a band. I mean, that was the first thing that I did. I think I played for about 6 months, and I was already in a band, because it was a band that was, you know, I think it was a band with me and Steve Turner from Mudhoney and another friend of mine named Jeff Covell who played drums, and we all sucked, and it was really fun, and that was, you know, and immediately I knew that that's what I wanted to do, is to work in a band situation. It wasn't like, okay, I am this incredible artist and here's my thing, but I knew I wanted to do this thing where it was my buddies and it was loud and it was obnoxious, and, you know, you got to meet girls and, you know, whatever. But, you know, it was over a long period of time that, you know, the ideas of this is what I want to do for, you know, my life, and, you know, music has become more and more important to me every year of my life, you know, not only because I'm making money off it, but just my love for it and my addiction to it. You know, I am constantly going back and learning, you know, about new instruments and wanting to learn how to play different things, and so it's been a slow build in terms of my affair with music.
That you were pretty much infatuated with music, enamored of it when you first actually did pick up guitar.
Yeah, I mean, I felt immediately that I felt immediately that I could do something pretty well. You know, immediately I felt like, well, I can play a riff. You know I can do that. You know, I could write. I immediately knew how to write a song, that was inspiring to me. That gave me a lot of confidence. It's like, and really, it was just my personality type or whatever. But it's just like, I was able to screw around on a guitar, and when I played something, I could say, I liked that, and I could play it again. And then you play it again, and you play it again, and you play it again, and you play it again. You know, it's a riff, or 3 notes, or 2 notes, and that's your first song, and then you make a mistake someplace in there, and you go, whoa, let me do that again, and again, and again, and again, and then all of a sudden you have your first chorus, or your first bridge, and that's just kind of the way I play. It's just this very repetitious, very rhythmic-oriented sort of style, or at least that's how I see it.
So, Cole, you talk about, you know, your own musical development in terms of the, you know, immediate gratification of being able to play, to write songs, and I guess you've sort of gone with the flow. I mean, I don't know if you've been obsessed with the music, but it seems like you've been rewarded on a commercial scale, a very large commercial scale. Is that something you've been able to grow with, the way you've grown as a musician?
In terms of dealing with it.
Yeah. 'Cause the music.
Yeah. I mean, myself thinking that I'm really a special person all the time, and I do everything I can to get those thoughts out of my system. Yeah, I think we've all worked really hard, and I think that
Terms being thrown around by the mass media valid at all, or do you see it as just something a Frankenstein the mass media has sort of built up?
Well, it's difficult to say. My ego certainly wants to believe that it's something very special. I catch my.
You yourself went, I guess it was Green River, and there was Mother Love Bone, and collaboration with Soundgarden, Temple of the Dog, Pearl Jam. It's kind of hard to talk about this subject without sounding rather cliched, with all the talk about Seattle and grunge and whatnot. But having been at the center of that, how do you evaluate it? I mean, are those...
I'm going to start sounding like a basketball player because it's going to start sounding like a cliche. Hey, we just go out there every day and we give it our all, and 100%, and that pays off. And there's amazing things going on all over the planet, and our band, we look at it, as an honor to be loved for sure, and yeah.
Historically, you've kind of been placed in the eye of the storm, being in the right place at the right time. I mean,